Welcome to UnSUCKcessful. We're your hosts, Jen.
And I'm Brandy, and this is the podcast where we admit out loud
that we suck.
So if life has ever felt like a dumpster fire,
you're in the right place.
Well, let's get into it.
This week on UnSUCKcessful, we're talking about how stepping into something unfamiliar, whether it's a new job, career shift, or even a new skill, can make us feel like we totally suck. Imposter syndrome creeps in and we start worrying about what other people think, and suddenly we feel like we don't belong. But what if we could flip the script? What if embracing a beginner's mind was actually the secret to staying on top of our game? Let's talk about how making peace with being new can be our biggest superpower. And hey, you know the drill. While you're at it, take a screenshot, follow along, leave us a review. We would love to hear some of your favorite parts. And we are going to dive in right now.
The beginner's mind.
Beginner's mind.
Yes. So on this episode, we are going to be talking about the beginner's mind, approaching things with the beginner's mind. This morning, so I texted Jen, I said, let's talk about the beginner's mind, because I had just gotten off a phone call with a previous employee. I was giving her a bit of a pep talk this morning. She just started a new job yesterday. And so she was, experiencing the imposter syndrome, and it's a high level position, and she's kind of walking into this company. And I mean, she had some interesting, first day things that happened, a girl that used to have her position that still works there, that was in a lower level position, and was telling her this. And, that's a lot of pressure on a first day. And so she was experiencing a lot of different feelings. And so she was asking me some advice. Funny enough, she lives 2 hours ahead of me in the time zone. So she texted me really early, and she was like, call me when you're up,
That's right, because the text from you came to me really early. I was like,
oh no, I was up early.
Did they talk for 5 minutes? Because that makes no sense.
45 minutes. But anyway, and then she was like, I hadn't called her back right away. And she's like, well, I had to put on Mel Robbins because you weren't available. Next best thing. Anyway, Mel Robbins.
Brandy's here. Mel Robbins here.
There we go. Yeah. No, but anyway. And then we were just talking about a few things. She says, what kind of advice, obviously, do you have for me? And I said, well, I think, and this is something that I've been thinking about for a really long time. And I've seen and I've noticed, especially in women and especially in myself. And it's probably why it sticks with me so much the last couple of years, is this new philosophy that I'm seeing everywhere, is that high level people need to approach everything that they do with a beginner's mind. And so it's such an interesting concept. And I think why it's stuck for me, for example, is because I have this, and I know this about myself over years and years and years, of wanting to be the smartest person in the room and feeling really bad if I don't live up to, that smartness, or being perceived as, smart and capable and all of that. I have, and that's from a couple of, traumatic events that happened to me when I was in high school and prior and all of that. And I think that that's something that a lot of women just in general can relate to, because it's this constant struggle of trying to prove yourself. Right?
Yeah.
So not wanting to ask a stupid question, right? Or being in a room and having that fear of, okay, well, I should know this, but I don't know this. And so what are they going to think of me?
Like an acronym. If someone says an acronym and you're like,
what the heck? Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. All these things. And there's that okay, I should know that because I work in marketing, or I'm in marketing. So there's so many acronyms in marketing. It doesn't matter what, industry you're in. And it's okay, well, how long have you been in this industry and you don't know that word, or you don't know that acronym? You just, all that imposter syndrome stuff starts coming in. So
yeah, I like that.
It's really, so, and I know this, obviously this girl really well. And I know that that's a part of I know she's fully capable. And so that today just popped in my mind, because I'm I bet you she's going to be potentially afraid. I mean, I don't know this for sure, but it's afraid, she's again walking into a high level position, and there's a lot of pressure. She's feeling pressure, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, though, if you think about it, this company is probably, thinking, okay, this person has some of these skill sets, but doesn't know our company. You got to remember that. Like, they don't expect you to just walk in and be a rock star day one. Like, there's so much that goes into company culture, systems, processes, transferable skills, all of that stuff. But it's just interesting. Like, the beginner's mind concept is something that I think women especially need to just like really hone in on.
And embrace it.
And
be like, this is okay. Yeah. I'm going to grab my computer quick because I want to see like if there's an actual definition for this. You know what I mean? So
pull it up.
Talking. But I had a question while you were talking.
Okay.
So we don't need to talk about your friend. Maybe she wants to be a guest. Hey friend, if you know who you are, be a guest.
She wants to be a guest.
Does she? Does she know about it?
No, but
she doesn't. She will.
She will.
I love
she
it.
loves to talk, and we have a great relationship. So she'll be on here one day for sure. She's great. One of the things I said to her specifically was, okay, because I think that you have to acknowledge that you're a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
I've been, and it's interesting. I'll never forget at the bank. I'll never forget this. This was a traumatic experience too. I remember my boss, we talked about good old Dennis Hatt before, but he had said to me something like, no, don't tell them you're new. Don't tell them you're new. Don't tell them you're new. And I never got that. I never understood that. It's like, I think that's okay.
I wonder if that's why, like, what stuck with you.
That's one of the many things that has stuck with me for sure. 100%. But I just like never really got it because I think there's a way I get like he does, and especially in a banking, an authoritative type situation where you're supposed to have the upper hand kind of thought process. It was like showing a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Right? Showing that sign of weakness. And
I was in banking. Yep. And God forbid you show any weakness.
Right? And I totally disagree with that because I think it's a matter of, I even said to her, I said, okay, just say, you know what? Like, I try to approach things with a beginner's mind. And, I have a lot of, experience and background, and I can make a lot of assumptions about some of these things, but I might ask, like, set yourself up for success. I might ask questions that might seem like really simple, or, trivial, or things that maybe I should already know. And, they might be things that I know, but I want confirmation from you in the systems and in the, environment that we're in. And this whole place is
how you do it your way versus the way that maybe I've seen it done before. I think that's huge. Okay. I have a little bit of an explanation. So this is from Forbes.com, and it says, in Zen Buddhism, there's a concept called beginner's mind. I love Buddhism.
So do I.
I like to say I'm a practicing Buddhist. I'm trying to get there.
I basically minored in like religious studies.
Did you?
In university.
Yeah. My sister.
I took a ton of Buddhism classes. So it's, maybe
this was. That's why you're here and Mel Robbins is here.
Sure.
It's probably it. So this refers to the attitude of approaching something with a fresh perspective, as if you were seeing it for the first time. It is a state of openness and curiosity without any preconceived notions or expectations. Having a beginner's mindset can be incredibly helpful in our personal and professional lives. It can help us learn to see from different perspectives, explore new beliefs / ideas, solve problems more effectively, and be more creative. When we are open to new possibilities, we are more likely to see opportunities that we would have otherwise missed. We are also more likely to be willing to take risks and try new things. I love that. And it's so funny how the vulnerability of how it makes you so vulnerable when you admit or when you say that. But as you were talking, I thought of a few things. I had like my general manager that I had at Teacup. One of his best things that he did when he came on board with our team is he would say, I know nothing. Like, I'm an idiot. And he would literally say that about himself. And the team loved him. And because of that, he goes, okay, I don't know what that is. You know, I'm stupid. I'm the worst. Can you explain to me what's going on here? But it wasn't that he didn't know anything about it. It was exactly like what we just talked about. He had an idea. He wanted confirmation. Or he wanted to know, or he wanted it from their perspective. Sometimes I even do that when I'm to get a buy-in from someone, right? And from a management perspective. And actually, I did this with trade partners all through my design career because I wanted them on my side. I wanted them to know that I value their opinion. They are the experts. As a general contractor, you know a lot about a little about a lot. And then with the trade specific, they know a lot about a little, right? So I wanted to make sure that they knew that. But when I would go in, I would ask my framer if he thought I should bring down a doorway header or leave it up to the ceiling. And those simple questions, I already knew what I was going to do, but by having that conversation and working through it, then I've become one of the most respected people in the construction industry in the city, especially as far as design goes, because of those relationships.
Yeah.
But if I would have gone in and been like, this is what I think should happen, and can't we just do this, and blah, 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 then there would have never been that relationship. So I think it's really good in getting that buy-in from the team,
which is so important.
Yeah,
like
because it can
so important.
Be hell
the people. I mean, the people aspect of anything that you're doing, like the buy-in, is huge, right? Yeah. So I don't know. It's so interesting. Like it's one of those things where I've often thought about: is this the people that have this skill, right? Versus the people that don't. And
like being able to have the beginner mindset.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And like a function of ego and all of those things, right? Like, I think that is really interesting.
So what did you do at the bank when said man
boss what did I do?
Yeah, what'd you do?
I pretended I pretended I wasn't new. I just went right into it.
And
I felt like shit.
Yeah.
But I learned some things. I mean, I did learn, like, I learned that was like kind of on the negative side of things, I guess, like something later down the road that probably affected me. And I didn't realize how much it affected me until kind of today. And we're talking about this, right? And then, but the other flip side of it was that he instilled in me too. He said, you know what, like, even though you're new, you already know more than your client, even if you've been here one day. You already know, and you have access to resources that they don't have. Yeah. Right. So, and that always stuck with me. And that was something that I always, like, I continue to tell, like, even within Sana, because that's what we do is we get, girls started up in beauty businesses, and it's like their confidence level and all that. And, I'm new and I'm going to suck and all that. And I'm like, okay, but you already have this extra knowledge, and you already have this extra access to resources. So I learned a lot there, but what are your initial thoughts on that, Jen?
Well, I think that one of the things that we're always said to do is fake it till you make it. And now we're kind of coming to this different time where we're saying it's better to be authentic than it is to try and fake it. But for me, the thing was like, what's authentic? And sometimes I think that you do have to fake it till you make it too. And what that looks like, I don't know. I think it's different for every situation. I think this can be tied so much into what we've talked about before about trying hard. I think that if you're trying to show people that you know what you're doing and you really don't because you're a beginner and your ego's driving it, or said man boss said, don't tell them that you don't know what you're doing. That is an ego driven thing. Like, it can really get in the way, but why are you not telling them? So I could see on two different sides. If you're working with clients, what you just talked about, when you're talking with clients, you want to hold that doctor frame, and they're coming to you because they trust that you have more answers than them. So in that case, you don't necessarily want to be saying that you're new, right? You tell them there's ways to deal with that, sales team, that kind of thing when they're learning. I always say, I don't know that, but let me find out and I'll get back to you, which is a great second touch point.
I think it really boils down to a level of confidence too. Like, I think I'm going to come back to one of the things that, again, I'm seeing this more and more, and it's fairly relevant for me in the last couple of years, the concept of beginner's mind. It's sticking with me because I feel this imposter syndrome type stuff. And I think, one of the things I've learned is that when that kind of stuff starts creeping in, that's when you really have to take a step back and go, okay, yes, I don't know X, Y, Z, but I know A, B, C, D, E, and really taking inventory there of your accomplishments and what you do know. And this goes back perfectly to, psychology, in that the more you know, the more you realize how much you don't know.
Exactly. Which is going to be another segment on superiority, the superiority complex. I think that ties in with that too. But I think we're talking about, like, there's two different sides to it. There's the external point of view of like other people knowing that you're new, but then there's the internal of like how you feel. So I think externally, okay, if you're dealing with clients, maybe you fake it till you make it a little bit more, because again, you want the doctor frame, you want that confidence. To your team, I think it's important that you tell them, okay, I don't know, or I know these things, but I just don't know how you do it. And I want to come in here, pretend like I know nothing. You teach me. And then that's going to show them, again, you're going to gain that trust. But internally, when you're going through that, you're like, oh my God, like, I'm terrible at this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I suck.
Yeah.
And that conversation,
well, and especially like,
it's hard.
I think what's really interesting, I'm thinking about Kerwin Rae. Do you know who Kerwin Rae is? He just recently passed away. Did you know that? Yeah.
I did.
Anyway, incredible. You guys should look up his work online. But he talked a lot about the herd mentality, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that that's also where this plays into, is that herd mentality. And that's what an organization really is adapting to the herd. And so it's scary to kind of go outside of that, right? And it's scary to not, and to think a different way, or be afraid of the questions that you're going to ask or not ask, right? So I don't know. It's kind of interesting there.
Yeah, people are weird. That's all I got. No, but I love that definition of it that we just read, because admitting that you're a beginner is hard. And again, I could do so many like sports analogies with it too. Like there has to be some kind of bell curve. Have we talked about this before? There has to be a bell curve of like where you've been in something for so long, and you like start to excel, and then you just like get really shitty at it again. And then you like start excelling again. And maybe the chart doesn't look like this, but it almost looks like this, and then a flat line. And then you get better again, where you're starting out in the bottom. Yeah, you do suck. And then when you get to this point where you flatten out, you think you suck again, but you're not back down here where you were before. You never will. You'll never be there again, ever, simply because every day is a new experience. So you flatline, and I think that flatline is what really sinks me emotionally and mentally, and where your burnout happens, or it can, or you just get exhausted, because I think where this flat line is you stop seeing results, and you're thinking like, okay, I've already learned all of this. I think you're thinking you're good at it. But you've learned so much, but there's still always so much more that you can learn. And I wonder if when you get to this certain point and as things change, so for me, like different economies, different spending habits of people, different presidents coming in, different prime ministers, and all this political shit coming on, and interest rates and all that kind of thing. Like for me at Teacup, for example, in the business, had a solid few years of growth, like solid few years. And you're thinking, okay, I've gone through a lot of cycles, and then a new cycle happens, and you're like, what the hell is this? And like, I already know, and you don't know how to pivot. And it is actually new. You're kind of almost getting back to that beginner and
to the beginner.
And that's one thing that I've really had to do in the last few years, again, healing from the burnout too, is be like, okay, get back to the basics. Like, this is not what it used to be. The movement has changed. What people know, everything's changed.
Everything's changed and everything's continuing to change. And and I was just having a conversation actually with a client today about that. We were talking about, so it's interesting. It's a family business, but they're starting in an e-commerce business. So we've helped this client with absolutely everything, branding, website, their whole email presence, everything, online presence, ads, everything. And what they're trying to do now is like, so she's the daughter's running it and the dad's, it's a family business and he's there as well. And he's got loads of business experience, right? Years and years and years. And he's been very successful. But what he doesn't know is this new era and how things are done online and e-commerce wise. And so she was asking me specific questions on financials. And I said, okay, like, I know I can give you some numbers, right? But you can look these up online. You can Google these. They'll give you some ballparks or whatever. I said, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, how do we explain to you the e-commerce and how the new way and the old way, and explaining the similarities between them?
Yeah,
they're exactly the same, just a slightly different form, right? And so I don't know, I was going for somewhere with this. What did you talk about before? What did you say?
Well, how there's like a level out as something changes.
Oh,
I'm sure like
changes.
Dad's probably like, what the hell?
So, well, Dad is just like, yes, he's confused and he's like, what is this? Right? How does this work? And so then I told her as well, I said, the difference being, one of the biggest differences, and there's lots of different, analogies I can use between kind of your brick and mortar and your e-commerce business. But the biggest thing nowadays is what we're seeing is, back then you would do something or learn something, and that thing that you learned and that thing that you did, was something that you implemented in your business or new, and it stuck there for about 5-10 years. And it was there.
Yeah. It was new once.
And it didn't move.
Yeah.
It was new once. And now things are like, it's every week. It could be a monthly, it could be a yearly cycle, it could be, and you don't actually know. So you can't really count on anything. So you really have to be, adaptable and malleable and all these other things. And that's a skill in and of itself, right?
Yeah. And I think it's also exhausting.
It is exhausting.
And I think that I just put myself in the dad's shoes, thinking, you've built this business for 35 years. You said 35 years?
However
longer. Long. You've built this business for your entire career. You're kind of running out on energy. Like, it's been great. You kind of want to retire. And then how much capacity do you have to learn the new stuff? Because honestly, I get to a point, if we're developing a new product and like we're going through it, it's been a year since we started working with 2 of our clients on our foundation builds heading to Ontario. And it's a new development because there's just new codes. And then halfway through, a new freaking building code came through.
New stuff.
So then you have to do it again. And you're like, what is going on? It's constant figuring out. And I'm like, oh, when can we get to the point where we can just build this? Whereas our tiny home RVs, like, we created the design. Yeah, we're tweaking, we're changing things. But like, ultimately the structure, the main ideology behind it has not changed in 3 years. So it's kind of nice. But I can't imagine being the dad and being like, I don't want to be a beginner anymore. It's hard work.
What's cool is that he's in it.
That's cool. That's so awesome.
And it's actually really cool because, I mean, he's been in business longer than 30, I don't even know, but I highly respect him, his family, met his sister actually as well.
Wow.
She's, and they have such an incredible, like, I just love their family.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much from him in that here's this guy, big business, billions. He's billions. And he's asking me questions.
Yeah.
Right?
That's cool.
So and that is really cool because that's like, I've learned that from him and I'm like, you know what? I respect you. So like, and even just like, again, being outside of myself, looking in, watching that interaction as well. And knowing that I respect him so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet he's asking me very simple questions, like in my mind, very simple
Mm-hmm.
questions. But yet I don't judge him any
Mm-hmm.
differently for that. And I actually respect him more.
Yeah.
Right,
because
I
you're the
respect
expert,
him.
like asking the framer, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I also feel respect. It's a really good mutual relationship builder. So I do think it's a very interesting thing where I think we do need to take a step back. And if you're listening to this, think about how you can approach everything that you're doing.
Be a beginner.
Be a beginner.
How can you be a beginner again? Yeah.
Yeah. And reframing it like that. Like I said, that mutual respect, that rebuilding, that, it's so interesting. I love this podcast, like UnSUCKcessful, right? And it's like this dichotomy. I think that's what's so crazy is that things, flipping narratives, changing paradigms, what worked before isn't necessarily working now. And we're, how do we adapt and we change too, right?
Yeah. How do you take the suck out of successful?
Yeah.
But I don't think you do. And that's part of it.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And that's where in the beginning, we all suck, right? You just take it down to the baby learning to walk.
Yeah.
The baby falls and that's how you learn. And some of the biggest mistakes are also the biggest learning experiences. And so I think it's okay to suck, as we always say. I did have a question. What advice would you give someone? But you basically already said that. So you wrapped up my end question. What advice did you give your friend this morning on the phone when she was freaking out about her second day at her new job? What did you tell her?
I think that's what I told her is I said, you need to approach things with a beginner's mind. Just reiterating that, okay, there's all these things that they see in you.
Yeah.
Okay. They already know what skills you have and what your weaknesses are. They know that already. Okay. Yeah. So you don't need to try and cover that up. They hired you for this and that reason. And you suck at these other ones. Okay. And if you suck at these other things, so some of the technical skills or whatever, don't be afraid to ask. Say, you know what? I'm not good at this. Right. And can you, show me this.
Yeah.
Or not even saying I'm not good at it, but just, you don't even need to say that because they already know that. Right. Yeah. So I think at the end of the day, we have this idea of ourselves. There's this hiding, and I don't think we're fooling anybody.
It's one of the most frustrating things for me as a business owner and as a manager is when someone won't tell you that they don't know how to do it, and they won't tell you that they don't know how. I hate that. I freaking hate that. Because it's a waste of time and energy and resources, and you're probably going to make mistakes that are going to cost more time, energy, and resources. I would rather you tell me, I have no idea how to do this. You want me to just think, I don't know how to do it. Can you walk me through it? Or someone else would be better at it. And in that time, in that moment, if that is said, and there's communication saying, I don't know how to do this, then I, as the manager, business owner, or whatever that is, probably your manager, get to say, you know what? I know that. It's awesome. I'd like you to try to tackle it and see what you can do. And then we're going to work through it together. Or it could be a learning experience where you're given that task so that you can work through it. They're trying to see something else, but don't just be like, yeah, I got it. And then they give you nothing. Oh, that's infuriating. When you ask someone to do something and they say, yeah, for sure. And then you give them a deadline and then you just never hear about it again. And then when you ask them, okay, where is this? You said you were going to have this to me yesterday afternoon. Where is this? And then they go, well, I didn't know how to do it. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me that?
And it happens so often?
So often, all the time. And I just think that, again, yes, it's the hiding part. It's what are you afraid of me knowing? The more we know about each other, the more
productive we can be,
better, like kind to each other, the more empathy I can have for you, instead of you just like thinking I expect these things. And I get it, especially in trades and construction, because again, where did it come from? It came from this very ego-driven, male-dominant industry where if you didn't know what you were doing, we're afraid to get fired. There was a manager at Avonlea when I started, and he was terrible. Like he yelled at people. He would slam the phone down. There's one time he like, it was just like, it was bad. He would leave me like nasty Post-its in my little mailbox, because we had mailboxes to put notes in like back then, right? Yeah. And just like asking where things were. He'd tell everyone on site that he hated me. And I was like, I never thought it was that bad, really. And I was never afraid of him, because I knew that the owners, the people that really mattered, they believed in me and they weren't like this. But this guy was so ego driven, and the team was afraid of him. It was that dictator management style and that fear driven, if you don't do this, you'll be fired. And that's how construction was. I think it's changed a lot, but that's...
Yeah. I think just in any industry, really, right? And then I think that is,
and it's we know
that's why they're afraid. That's why people are afraid. Yeah. And
I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get fired, or
like you say, like, or what we talk about all the time is what is it on the other side of fear? What is that?
There's hope.
There is hope.
Fear,
but just on the other side of fear, that's where like the breakthrough comes through. I think I think Brene Brown talks about that, the vulnerability and the fear and everything, and that's when it really
freedom
is
on the other side of fear. I don't know what she would say.
Yeah,
but that's something
like that.
I don't know.
So I think it's like, and it's tough, right? And I think that's where we are right now, even just in this podcast too. We're figuring that out.
Yeah,
like we're on this journey of actually like figuring that out. The fear is real. And we have to acknowledge that, but like, let's just try it, right? Let's just try it a little bit. And I think that's cool. My advice would be to push yourself, just be a beginner, ask a stupid question.
Push yourself to be a beginner.
Yeah. And ask it, like I say, stupid question, but that, it's like, you remember in school, the teacher would be like, oh, there are no stupid questions.
But
and you'd be like, yeah, there is a stupid question.
But that was
They're
stupid.
like, that kid over there always asks the stupid questions.
Exactly.
And you'd be like, okay, here he comes again. Yeah. Here's little Johnny, put his hand up, asking the stupid question.
Johnny.
Poor Johnny.
Probably is a multimillionaire. Right
and that's where I'm at here. I think at the end of the day, yes, so I think we all need to do this. So good. Okay. Well, that was a fun episode.
It was a fun episode, but if you're here, just remember that ultimately, if you feel like you suck,
you do.
But we do too. So
thanks for joining us.
Next week, we're tackling limiting beliefs, those things you believed your whole life. But are they actually true? Or have they been quietly holding you back from a world of possibility? This is one of our absolute favorite topics, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. If today's episode hit home, take a second to subscribe, leave us a review, share your favorite moment on Instagram, and don't forget to tag us at UnSUCKcessful Podcast. And remember, life might feel like a total dumpster fire sometimes, but hey, it's your dumpster fire. See you next time.